Hey everybody, welcome to another Horizon Forbidden West game guide. So this is, I know I said this multiple times, but I think that this may be the final Horizon Forbidden West perfect game file overview. And this one is on ultra hard. It's taken me the better part of 2 years and well over 1,000 hours to finally get to this point. So I'm pretty happy about doing it. This will be very similar to my earlier video, which kind of went over the same thing, but that was on the adjustable difficulty. And this one, of course, is on ultra hard. So to start with, the variable adjustable difficulty file did have actually a very unfortunate issue. It had a game crashing glitch on it. And I managed to achieve everything I needed to before that glitch came into effect, but afterward it did come into effect. Whereas here, knock on wood so far, I have not been actually able to replicate that glitch and I haven't seen it on this file. So I might actually be out of the woods. So in any case, I'm in my room at the base, and it's going to be a very, very long video because, again, there's a lot that goes into, my definition of the so-called perfect file. So let's just start. We should begin with the notebook as usual. So to start with, I'm going to go off of my script. We do need to platinum the game. There's no in-game version, or there's no in-game checklist for platinum to do the platinum. That's a PlayStation 5 Sony thing. So you should just basically check it up online. It's pretty inconsequential to platinum both the main game and Burning Shores, but there are certain things that they ask you to do that the actual game itself doesn't really keep track of. So number one, platinum the game. Next, we're going to go to the tutorials. Again, these are basically the in-game instructions. And just make sure that none of them have exclamation marks. In fact, make sure that there's no exclamation marks anywhere in the notebook, because the exclamation mark implies that you haven't read it or you haven't actually opened that particular subfile. Next, we're going to go to game progression for both the main game and Burning Shores, and you want to make sure that you have 100% on both. Just as a side note, certain parts of the game contribute toward 100%, other parts do not. And what you're seeing on the screen are all of the elements that actually contribute to 100%, which means that if you don't see it on the screen, then technically it's not tallied as part of the percentage. So here you can see the quests, activities, legendary items obtained, etc. Pay particular notice to the machine sites. This is actually not really an accurate description of what they want. It's not actually the sites per se. It's actually the different machines and all of the subtypes. And there's 102 that count toward the completion. So 100% on game completion. And then, of course, for the downloadable content, 100% for Burning Shores as well. Now, I'd like to move on to the machine catalog. So if you have 100% on the game progression and the Burning Shores, then the machine catalog by definition will also be completely unlocked. So there shouldn't be any question marks. I can see that I've unlocked all the different variants. You have to scan all of these variants. And so when you do that, that's how you get the full complement, okay? I'm going to go through so that you can pause the video at any point and kind of see what you may be missing. The Spectre and Spectre Prime are special in the sense that while they do count for this screen, and if you don't scan them, there'll be a question mark, they don't actually count toward the total number of machines scanned for the 100% completion. The Spectre is actually missable if you neglect to scan it throughout the entirety of the main game at Burning Shores. They actually patched it so that for Spectre Prime, even if you don't scan Spectre Prime as the final boss of the main game, if you beat it, they will automatically give this to you. But just be aware that these two particular machines don't count toward the 102. It goes without saying that the character bios should all be unlocked. This is actually technically unmissable. However, early on, if you skip the tutorial in your run, you're not going to get the bio for Blameless Marad, Sun King Avad, or Vanasha, or Uthid. So, it's kind of a silly little thing, but this is a way of missing them. It goes without saying that if you're going to really be going for a perfect run, you do have to replay the tutorial, which, on Ultra Hard is not insignificant. Because Ultra Hard, you don't really have all of your full complement of weapons yet. They lock it away, and you do have to beat a Slitherfang at the end of that tutorial section on Ultra Hard. But that's what you have to do if you want to not miss any of these character bios. It goes without saying that the collectibles have to all be obtained if you're going to get 100%. Again, I'm just sort of moving things along so you can actually see all of the different ones. If you're missing it, you can then take a look at this video and see what you're missing and hopefully where to get them. So these are all of the collectibles from both the main game as well as the Burning Shores downloadable content. We're into the Burning Shores stuff now. Okay, very good. Let's go to statistics now. So this is a page that has a lot of information. A lot of it is not really missable. As you start playing the game, you can see that you're going to wind up, killing all the different machine types by default. So I'm just scrolling down, that's no problem. You can see on the left-hand column, these are all the different types of machines. And then under human enemies, they keep track of how many human enemies you've killed and how many headshots that you've, taken care of them that way. That's not really missable. On the right side, there's a bit more interesting stuff. They keep track of ways that you fight under combat. So as you can see, they keep track of how many times you've done critical strikes and silent strikes and things like that. So just take a look there and make sure that all of those have been uncovered. The one that's kind of the hardest is canisters detonated. As you can see, after hundreds of hours, I've only ever detonated 7 canisters. But as long as you detonate one of them, it'll show up. So just make sure all of those, at least you have one of each, right? But as you can see, after playing multiple New Game Pluses, this is really not too much of an issue. Now, moving down, be aware of 2 actual areas of combat that you can miss. They keep track actually of the unique heavy weapons picked up. And this one's a little bit tricky. They don't count heavy weapons that like human antagonists or rebels use. For instance, like the Deathbringer or any number of various heavy weapons that you see when you're attacking the rebel fortresses and outposts and camps. These are specifically heavy weapons that you tear off of your machines, the machine antagonists. And some of them actually are not counted. For instance, like the shock orb from the Tremor Tusk and the shock orb from the Slitherfang are not considered unique weapons. They're considered the same thing. And so through just a lot of experimentation, there's exactly 15 of those that you have to pick up. And one of them actually is a missable one. It's a Shell Snapper Inferno heavy weapon. Most of the time, the Shell Snapper weapon is a frost weapon, but there's an Inferno version, and it actually does count as a unique heavy weapon, and you have to look for it in the very last level, Singularity. And it's just lying on the ground, and you literally have to find it and pick it up. It's hard to to describe through words exactly where it is, but it's basically the very last specter that you fight, and right before the other members of your party converge, and it's in the sequence kind of right before Regala, gets killed. So just looking at that area where you kill the very last specter, and it's lying there. So this is obviously a very easy thing to miss, and if you miss that, you would have to play the whole game, of course, if you already beat Singularity. So that's something to be aware of. The Burning Shores downloadable content introduced the grapple strike, and it began to keep track of how many machine types that you use the grapple strike. So including the Burning Shores itself, there's 44 grapple strikes that you have to do. Luckily, it doesn't count individual subtypes of machines. So you just have to grapple strike, for instance, any burrower, and it counts for all burrowers. But again, if you're keeping track of this, there needs to be 44 of them. And the specters, corruptors, and specter prime does count as a unique machine type for the grapple strike, which means that they are missable. If you advance in the game and there's no more specters, then that's going to be a problem. And of course, the specter prime, you only have one opportunity to grapple strike when you're fighting her. And so be aware of that. Another thing is that grapple strikes in the arena do count, just like scanning machines in the arena do count. So that can be there to help you. So corruptors you can always get from the arena. Finally, moving further down, the time played, campfires lit, those are all not missable. Looking all the way down, you are going to get 24 total dies, 36 total face paints. These include the downloadable contents. Some of the dies are basically missable depending on rewards for little tiny overworld activities. Beating hunting grounds. Be aware that the playing song hunting ground can sometimes be glitched in the sense that you could defeat it or beat it and then you don't get the die reward. And my advice there is to try to do that as soon as possible. The minute it's available, quickly go there and then do it to avoid that glitch. You also get another die, for instance, by saving Dain outside playing song by killing a sky drifter. And if you advance too far in the game and get into playing song, then you're going to miss that. So be aware of that as well. The game also keeps track of how many pieces of Brimshine is obtained. So the Brimshine is sort of like the green shine equivalent in the Burning Shores. And the game keeps track of that. And there's a total of 216 Brimshine, both from the arena rewards in the Challenger tier, as well as the overworld map and things like that. So you're going to have to get all of those as well, 216. Okay. As another warning, if you do arena duplication, you may already have, for instance, hundreds of Brimshine in your inventory. As a quirk of the programming, because the game, of course, does not take into account this type of manipulation, your Brimshine will not show up under the statistics if you already have maximum Brimshine, in the inventory. So as a matter of just to be cautious, you should remove all Brimshine and put into the stash from your inventory. So you have 0 Brimshine in inventory when you start a new game plus to prevent that from happening. So as you can see, certain aspects of the perfect game does actually require quite a bit of thinking, quite a bit of attention to detail. And if you miss, then you're not going to be able to achieve it. So I'm trying, as I'm going through this, to take my time to go through all the little missteps and pitfalls and careless mistakes that could happen to derail this. Finally, under New Game Plus, you're also going to get 4 new dies, 5 new face paints, and 8 new legendary weapons. The game keeps track of that, but again, that's not really missable. You're going to be easily able to get all of those. So now we're done with the statistics page. A lot of info actually on this page, but all of those are important. So we've done tutorials, statistics, we've done the 100%. So finally, of course, we're going to go to data points. I've kind of debated what to do about these data points. There's so many of them. There's literally hundreds of them. A lot of them are, well, technically none of them are missable. So there shouldn't be any data point where you're never able to get them. There are data points in portions of the main quest that are closed off, but when the game progresses past those points and you can't go into those areas again, the data points are actually automatically given to you. This starts from even the tutorial section of the game. But there are a lot of data points in the maps, both overworld and within dungeons and those type of things. And it's just a lot to get all of them. Okay, so obviously for the purposes of a perfect game, you do have to get all of them. The game itself does not keep track. So an interesting thing is that to get 100% game completion, data points are actually not part of that criteria. So it's almost like the programmers themselves decided it was maybe too much. But I do encourage that because if you're able to get all of the data points, and some of them are pretty fluffy, they're not really important. But I think a lot of the data points do unlock aspects of the lore and the land around you, the story that becomes important later on. For instance, you learn about vast silver, which is kind of like the first artificial intelligence in this, in the mythos, and you would never learn about vast silver without these data points. So that's my take on that. I'm continuing to go through all of this so that, again, if you're missing any, you can see from here what you are missing. And every time you do a new game plus, of course, all of the data points are reset, so you have to scan them all again. So we're not even to Burning Shores yet. We're about to go right now. So now we're to the Burning Shores portion of the data points here. There were a few glitches involving these. Some of them were not properly activated. So it is important for you to update to the latest patch 1.026 to reduce the chances of any type of game-breaking glitch or whatnot. So we're almost done here. Continuing to move on. There's like hundreds of these, but we're pretty much done. Okay, very good. So we're going to leave the notebook now, and then we're going to go to skills. The reason I go to skills is because it's not much to say. Obviously, you need to get all of the skill tree activated. You can see here that they are all done. There should be no exclamation marks. Now, there are certain parts of the skill tree that you may not want to activate. For instance, like the healing smoke bombs or the rope caster elements, which actually hurt you, especially if you're trying to do like a low health run. But for the purposes of a perfect game, you really don't have that option. So every skill tree obviously has to be unlocked. Let's move on to the inventory. So I'm going to go through this again. It goes without saying that you should have every single weapon not only obtained, but also completely fully upgraded. You can see up at the top that all of them are fully upgraded. There is one particular weapon here that you actually have to glitch to get, which is the Hunter Training Bow. And you have to do that by escaping the melee pit at the bulwark. You'll have to look at my YouTube video or other YouTube videos to see how to properly do that. I believe that's the only weapon that you have to actually actively glitch to get. Everything else you kind of either obtain throughout the course of the game or you buy, but just make sure that you have all of them and that they're all maximally upgraded. The Black Tide Sharpshot Bow is a pre-order bonus. You can only get this if you pre-ordered the Burning Shores downloadable content. And there are a couple other weapons that you can only get by pre-ordering both the main game or by the digital deluxe edition. Luckily, those can be obtained later on by just paying for it. You can even get an eBay, go to eBay and buy a code to get the pre-order code for the main game. So just be aware that those are exceptions where you're not going to be able to get them just by playing the regular game. So there you have it. I'll show you, for instance, that you're not going to be able to get the Nora Legacy Spear, for instance, without purchasing doing the pre-order. So here it is, Legacy Spear. Okay, so these are all of the weapons. Let's go to the outfits. So the same thing. The Black Tide Quen Commander is a downloadable is a pre-order exclusive for the Burning Shores. Again, every outfit should be completely maxed out. And also, if you want to pay attention to detail, you should notice that the weaves are all in its original state. So you do take off the weaves in order to duplicate them, and that's fine, but you have to replace them in its exact slot from where you took them. So you can see that that is what I did. And also notice that when you go to the uncommon ones, the weaves are put in the first slot rather than the second slot. So also something to notice. So all the outfits, including pre-order bonuses, including downloadable content or digital deluxe bonuses, and all of them maxed out. Let's go to coils and weaves, which is kind of like a huge thing. There's well over 300 or 400 of those. So just be very careful. You need to get all of those. I'll try to point out the ones that are sort of special. In this case, the instant shocked chance plus 2% can only be obtained by buying it at Thornmarsh in version 1.00, the disc version of the game, before any patch has been updated. So there'll be more details on some of my written FAQs on how to get a perfect game, but you won't be able to obtain this coil without actually uninstalling your game, taking your PlayStation off of the internet, and then basically playing off of a disc version from release. So this is the only way to get this instant shock chance plus 2%. Continuing to move on, there is another one coming up, the critical hit damage plus 25% purple coil right here, and the instant shocked chance, it's coming up, the instant shock chance plus 1%. These two coils, the critical damage plus 25% and the instant shock chance plus 1%, can only be obtained by escaping from the arena on either Dreaded Encounter or Apex Predators, and then going to the merchant outside in the mall, selling it to her, abandoning the challenge, and then buying it back from her later on. There's no other way to do it, and those two coils are locked into the arena. So again, it's something that you kind of have to glitch out in order to do it, and there are more detailed information showing that. So I think the rest of these coils and weaves, you don't have to do anything special for. You're going to get them by finding them from drops, buying them from merchants, things like that. So continuing on, now we're going to go into the weaves. I guess this is a good time to mention that you can see that I have 10,000 of each. So all of my resources are completely maxed out. It's either going to be 999 or 10,000. This obviously requires you to do the arena duplication glitch. So for those of you who don't want to do that, that's understandable. But then, for the perfect game, you don't need to have this, but you do need to have a copy of every single item in the game, whether it's a coil, a weave, or a resource. You do need to have a copy both in your inventory and in your stash. So you have to obtain at least 2 of each. Obviously, for my preference, I'd just like to have all of them maxed out, but you don't have to have the same thing, of course, on yours if you don't want to use any of the glitches at all. It is possible to do a perfect game without the glitch. It just takes a bit longer. So we're almost done with all of the coils and weaves section. As you can see, it's a huge number. This is one of the hardest parts of the perfect game to achieve because it's so difficult to get the very last missing coil or weave, as they are all randomly dropped by Apex machines or large machine types. Okay, so there you go. So hopefully we've covered that. Now we're going to go to tools. Under the tools, you can only carry 9 potions. I carry 3 cleanse and 6 large stamina. We'll revisit this section in the stash later. I don't carry any food with me in the inventory, but there will be those in the stash, so we will revisit that as well. It goes without saying that you need every type of trap. You have to know how to craft every single type of item, and this should be all maxed out. Same thing with all of these. I have 10,000 rocks. All of these should be maxed out as well. Okay, so this is the tools section. For the ammo, it's the same thing. You should have every single type of ammo in the game, and you should have maximum numbers of all of them. Again, I'm just going through all of the different subtypes so you can see. This section is not really missable. Just by playing the game multiple times, you should be able to get all of this. Now we're going to go to the resources. So here there's a lot to talk about. You need to have every single resource in the game, and they all need to be maxed out. Okay, now if I correct myself, if you don't want to do the arena duplication, they don't have to be maxed out, but you need to have at least a copy both in your inventory and the stash. So I'm going to go through and show you these and then talk about things that are kind of difficult or interesting that you would normally miss. So an Apex Sunwing Heart cannot be obtained by killing machines. Most of these items can be obtained by killing machines. You can't do that with the Apex Sunwing. They can only be obtained by opening certain chests in the overworld map. And I do have a list of every chest that could potentially give one to you. So just be aware, a Sunwing Heart, you have to open a chest. You can't kill the Sunwing to get it. These guys you can kill to get them. The Apex Fangorn Heart is another special one. It cannot be obtained in the regular game. You can only get it in a version 1.00 disc. Again, you have to go all the way back to 1.00 disc and then kill a Fangorn near in the north, I think in Stone Hill or whatever you call that here. So I don't say the wrong thing. My memory sometimes does fail me. What is the name of this place? It's called Stonecrest, sorry. So there is a hidden Fangor site in Stonecrest right here where I am. If you travel to the campfire, you will find it. So that's where you get the Apex Fangor Heart in version 1.0 disc. The Apex Grazer Heart and the Apex Lancehorn Heart, just like the Apex Sunwind Heart, these two can only be obtained from specific chests in the overworld map. So I think I've gone through all of the special ones here that you have to know about. One of them is coming up. Corruptor Circulator. You can only get from Corruptors. So remember that Corruptors are in the arena, but you can't get Circulators and Primary Nerves from the arena. You have only a limited opportunity to kill these Corruptors to get this loot. One in Pharaoh's Tomb, and then later on, at the very end of the Burning Shores, for his final act, you kill a few of them. So be aware of that. The Shimmering Scale is another item that's very difficult to get. The only way to get the Shimmering Scale is to actually kill the fish. You can't grab the fish where you're swimming. You have to either kill it with bombs, kill it with arrows, kill it with other machines dying. The best way I found to do it is by shooting salmon in one of the frozen lakes up north here. So this is where I went to get my Shimmering Scale. It's right here, and it's essentially the lake right over here. So I'm going to mark it for you. This is the place where there's salmon, and you just have to travel, go back and forth, and you're going to feel like it's a bug or a glitch, and you're never able to get it. But if you keep doing it over and over again, you will eventually get the Shimmering Scale. Okay, so just something else for you to know. If you're wondering how I got these, don't forget the damaged Stormburst Circulator. Getting exactly 10,000 metal fertilizer pods in your inventory is not the easiest thing to do in the world. I'll let you figure out how to do that. But you get these obviously from the wide malls. Okay, moving along into the key upgrade resources. There's one thing to be aware of. It is the Stalker Mine Launcher. This is not an item you're supposed to get when you play the game normally. The Mine Launcher actually breaks down into regular components. So you get this as part of the Mine Launcher salvage contract. You do get a couple left over, and then you can duplicate. And so as you're doing New Game Pluses, be sure to put these Mine Launchers into your stash because before you start a New Game Plus, because the game will delete them when it starts the game. There are some implications, by the way, of this, as you try to do objectives that we'll touch upon later. But this is, again, an item that you're not normally supposed to have, so be aware of that. I think everything else is pretty straightforward. Yeah. Okay, now we're going to the gear upgrade resources. I'm going to move along a little bit faster. There's a lot still to cover. The Thunderjaw radar is coming up. So a few words about that. This Thunderjaw radar can only be obtained by killing rebel soldiers who killed a Thunderjaw in this site right here. So moving up, you have to travel to this Thunderjaw site right here. You use this campfire, but it can only be done on version 1.0 disk without any patches applied. And once in a while, when you get to this area, you'll find that the Thunderjaw has been killed by rebels, and if you kill those rebels, there's a chance that one of them will drop the Thunderjaw radar, which you can then take. This is again only in 1.0 disk. If it's patched, the Thunderjaw radar just breaks down into other components. You'll never be able to get it. Even so, this can only be kept in your stash. If you move it into your inventory and then you fast travel or reload from start, it will disappear. So for the purposes of this YouTube video, I've moved 10,000 from my stash into inventory so you can see it. But understand that for the normal course of playing the game, you can't have this inventory. It will disappear every time you fast travel. And obviously, as you can see, you can duplicate this. So moving along, I think actually that's all that needs to be said about that. This is the first overview where I'm actually trying to explain how some of the weird things I have that you're not going to be able to get, how I got them, so that you have a chance also of doing them. And it also kind of highlights how complicated and difficult it is to achieve this. Okay, so moving along, we have the pouch upgrade resources. Obviously, that has to be maxed out as well. You can buy these from merchants. The merchant, I believe, in Legacy's Land has all of them. This was a lot more complicated when we couldn't buy them, had to get them, by ourselves. All the ammunition resources, you can see, has to be maxed out. And then all of the food resources as well. So you can see if there's anything you're missing. These are all of them in the game. Healing berries, all the different dye plants. There's 6 total. And then, of course, all the different types of green shine and the brim shine. As you can see, I have them all maxed out because of arena duplication. You don't have to do that. But again, you should have at least one of each in the stash and the inventory. Moving to strike pieces. Just have every single strike piece in the game. I have about 4. You don't have to, but again, have a duplicate in both in your inventory and in stash. I should mention where is it? There is a, there it is. So the Apex Claw Strider piece can only be obtained if you buy the Digital Deluxe Edition. So just be aware of that. It'll be found in your stash if it's unlocked. So this is the Digital Deluxe version of this. Okay. And then for special gear, take a look at that. I actually kept the railgun component because on New Game Plus, you've already used it. And so you don't have to actually sacrifice this component to fulfill the objective. So I just keep it there. Your mileage may vary because if you do that every time you go to the workbench, it will always show that it needs to be upgraded. But I prefer to keep it as a part of my inventory. And then here we have extra salvage from some of Honda's quests, which you can pick up even though you finished her quest. So again, that's something that you can go back to those quest areas and get them. The broken tool, as well as the machine cable and machine scrap can only be obtained by going through the tutorial glitch, which I detailed in another YouTube video. For the data drive and the mobile cover system prototype, you obtain these as part of the Drowned Hopes side quest, and they're supposed to be used up while you use them to craft one of your weapons. But if you're going through that side quest and you simply skip the cinematic on a New Game Plus run, you get the weapon, obviously, because you already made it from before. But because you don't make the weapon again, you actually keep the data drive and the mobile cover system prototype. You just have to, again, skip the tutorial on a New Game Plus run to do that. Vashav's token is already given to you. The memorial marker is obtained from the side quest in the fog. Believe it or not, in the very final Clamberjaw area, we're supposed to find one of them. There's actually 2 of them. So what you do is you find one, and then you give it to Garoka. He then leaves. Don't leave that area. Search more scrap piles until you find the second one, and that's how you get this one in your inventory. Okay. There are exactly 6 keys that unlocks 6 chests in the rebel camps, I believe. Is it rebel camps or rebel outposts? It's the rebel outposts. I'm sorry. So there are 6 of those, and you usually have to use the key to open the chest to get the soldier tags. But if you open the chest and as the mission is completing, you then reload from start, almost like 95% of the time, you'll get to keep the key and the soldier tag. If that doesn't work, just reload an earlier save and try to do it again. But you are able to keep all 6 keys while getting these 16 soldier tags. Now, you're supposed to give these soldier tags to Duca, but again, depending on how you want to play your game, I keep them because I want to keep every item I can, but you could give it to her if you wish. But here are those 16 soldier tags. Under here, as you can see, because I already have all of my weapons and outfits from previous games, I don't actually need to use any of the arena medals or the hunting medals. These are keys from relic ruins that you're supposed to use to obtain them, but each of those keys can actually be kept because you're able to get the relics without using the keys. So there's 5 of these scenarios where you can do them. The salvage key module actually is used up, but because of a glitch in the game, it regenerates in its original spot, and you should just pick up one of those as well. And then finally, the Lancehorn salvage is from Honda's very last contract, Speedy Lancehorns. You kill 6 Lancehorns, and then you have to loot one of them. And if you do that and go back to Honda, and then you kill the machines attacking her, that will complete her salvage contract missions. But the bodies of the other 5 are still there, and if you walk all the way back, you can still loot them. And so this is another way of getting an extra item, along with, again, the 4 salvages that she hands out. They can still get to, even though you finished it, they're still there. Okay, so we're pretty much done for the inventory. Let's go now to quests. I'm going to put a separate YouTube video just to talk about the quests and getting everything you can, because it's a pretty big issue. There's a lot of glitches associated with these quests, and a lot goes into the perfect game from this. This is kind of the main reason I spent so much time on it, is to try to get these perfect objectives lined up. So here I'm just going to show you all of the different sub-objectives under the objective log, so you can understand what it looks like and why you may be missing a few here or there. And then in another video, I'll explain in detail how to get them and the limitations of getting them. One of the problems, as I go down through this, I can explain, one of the problems with these objective logs is that it's very unstable and very glitchy. You'll see that. And so when you die or you reload from save, you'll find that certain objectives in the log can convert from checkmark to fail. Certain objectives will completely disappear. A lot of optional objectives disappear. And so a lot of sort of the manipulation of the perfect game is to make sure that you get as many objectives as possible and that they stay as stable as possible. And that requires a lot of work and a lot of just sort of accounting, so to speak, to make sure when you're supposed to do something, at what point, all those type of things. Okay, so this is just the main log. We're into the Burning Shores territory now. And the epilogue, okay? Let's go to the side quests, where you can already see some of these issues coming up. As you can see, if you're paying attention, some of these objectives have listened to the rumor. You only get those from scouts. Others involve meeting a quest giver at that place of the quest. And you want to choose those as much as you can, because they are additional lines of objectives in the log, which would otherwise miss out on. Here you see that in the fog, there's actually just simply a line missing. That's a bug, which you really can't do anything about. But again, you can use this video to check to make sure that you have every single objective. Obviously, mine is perfect because I've spent so much time thinking about it. Look at Forbidden Legacy. Almost the entire objective log is deleted, which has always kind of bothered me. So, of course, I've spent a lot of time doing this. And so these are perfect objective logs. You should be using this as your template to make sure that you've gotten every single one of them. Okay. All right, let's go to errands. They're usually a lot shorter. There's a lot of side quests and errands and things to do in this game, obviously. Jobs, you just have nothing going on. So here's the salvage contracts. This is the source of the most glitches. You can see here there's a glitch double rest at the camp. This was the reason why 1,000 hours had to be spent doing the perfect game, which is kind of silly when you think about it. The most glitched objectives in the entire game. Here's the hunting grounds. You can't really ever finish them, but they're all checked off. Same thing with the melee pits. The arena is never ever done, so that's why it's not, checked. These are all of the rebel outposts. Again, showing you all of that. Yeah, no joke, but actually going through all of these objectives and delving into all of the intricacies to make sure you get every single objective in that log as much as you can is probably the work of another at least half hour. So that's why I have to kind of make another video to detail that if you really don't want to miss anything. And then finally, the collectibles. Not much to that. Just scrolling through them for you so you'll know again what you're supposed to have. Okay, that's it. Now we are going to go to the map section. This is another one that just takes so much time. So we'll start with the machine strike players. There's 16 strike players in the game. You have to obviously beat all of them, starting with the beginner one in chain scrape, and then moving to the one all the way across. I mean, I'll let you figure out where all of them are. That's not very hard. They're in plain sight, etc. Just remember that at the mall, there are two of them. This guy right here, who's an expert, and then right next to him is the master strike player, which can never be greened out, okay? So beat all of the strike masters in the game. There's 16 of them. Find them. They're all in the little towns and cities. So that's number one. Number two, as you can see, with me just sort of going through the map has to be completely defogged, every little bit of it. And it can't just be defogged with you doing this. It also has to be defogged even if you zoom all the way in, all the way to the maximum dimension or medium, and then you move all the way to the edge. You have to actually defog to the best of your abilities. You can see that there are limitations. There's these little tiny areas of fog, or little wisps of fog, and because the game is going to force you to reload from start, you can't get rid of this fog here, unfortunately. But within whatever you can do, you have to make sure that all the fog is completely gone, even on maximum magnification. That's very, very difficult. This is actually one of the harder parts of the perfect game. Could take hours and hours to obtain. In addition to that, you can see all of these icons. So you have to make sure that every single icon is actually highlighted and visited. Every single machine site is highlighted. There can't be any grayed out. And every shelter has to have all the components also available. There's probably close to 600 to 700 of these icons. So make sure every one of these has been visited and is activated. Same thing with the burning shores. As you can see, all of that here is done as well. Okay, so this is the map, so the so-called map portion of the perfect game. All right, so moving along, there's one area where I can't prove it, but you actually have to finish Varro's strike game with Errand, which I've already done, but that needs to be done as well. And of course, you have to obtain all of the green shine and brim shine, which I can't prove, but I have done. You want to open as many treasure chests as you can in the game. That's a bit of a problem because treasure chests tend to regenerate or come back. But within your best of your abilities, open every treasure chest in the game. Open every fire gleam, open every metal flower, open every rock barrier, interact with every single portion of the overworld map, all of the areas we can use a polecaster, open all of that. And then, of course, scattered throughout, there are sunken caverns. There's 8 of them. So there's one here, and all of them have to be completed. So just make sure you complete all of them, like so. Right here and here. So all sunken caverns have to be completed as well. Okay. I'm just checking my list to make sure I haven't missed anything. I don't believe I have. Remember that as you're going through the main quests and the subquests, that there will be people to talk to after you beat them. So you have to go through all of the dialogue trees and then go back and check on those people afterward to go through all of the post-quest cutscenes. Again, that's hard to show on a video, but that's something also that you have to be able to do as well. Okay. Now let's actually move over to the stash. In terms of what the stash is doing, there's not much to show because it's basically a duplicate of everything in the inventory. So I'm just going to go through this really quickly. Basically, everything I have in inventory, I have in the stash as well, with the exception of the outfits and the weapons. Under tools, there bears a little bit more, kind of information. So in the tools, see that I actually have every single potion in the game, at least 100 of each. And then for food, I actually have 20 at least of every single food type in the game as well. Now, I don't carry the food with me in inventory, but I do carry them in stash. You can see here that I actually have every single type of food in the game, and you do have to take the time to buy about 20 of each. So here you go here. The same thing with all the traps, of course, and with all of the utilities as well. Under ammo, there are some interesting issues here. For the ammo, you have actually 2 ammo that you can only find in your stash, and you get them from, again, 1.00 disc. You get it by actually doing the gauntlet races, and if you do those gauntlet races and then you go to the workbench, you're able to craft arrows that you normally wouldn't be able to get. One of them is a gauntlet shock arrow, and the other one is a gauntlet tear arrow right here. So the gauntlet tear and the gauntlet shock arrow can only be, again, crafted at the workbench after beating the gauntlet races up to the 3rd race, and you can only do it on the version 1.00 disc version before any patches were applied. So I just kind of wanted to show that, which means that in the stash, at least, you'll have 80 ammo types versus 78. These 2 gauntlet shock and gauntlet tear arrows cannot be shown in inventory when you are in the overworld, although they are shown in inventory through the stash. Coils and weaves, basically the same thing, just a duplicate in the stash. Strike pieces, same thing. And then, of course, the weapons and outfits I don't have in the stash because they're all in my inventory. Let's go to the hunter's pouch. So from here, you need to be able to craft all of them, and you need to have exactly 44 empty slots. If you've done all of the food and you've crafted everything, obtained every single item, you should have 44 empty slots exactly in here. And then up here, I'm going to show you all the ones that you're supposed to have as well. I don't think any of these are actually missable, and some of the details may vary depending on the sort of foods that you've crafted, but that should be all in your hunter's pouch inventory that you have. It's a minor detail, but as you can appreciate, no detail is too minor if you're trying to get a perfect game. Okay, so there we have it. And now while we're at the base, this is part of the interaction, of course. You have to interact with every single thing, so all of these have to be unlocked. Remember, all dialogue trees have to be explored to its utter conclusion, and you have to go back and visit multiple dialogue trees so that you're not missing anything. Obviously, this chest needs to be completely opened. We're going now to the, the lab, or what do you call it? So over here is the machine overrides. So I'm showing you here that every single override is also activated as well. Okay, there you go. So make sure that that happens. And then we will end by going to the arena. So I can show you that you have to actually beat the arena in its entirety as well. Let's travel there.
If you've got medals, only the best soldiers can go up against.
And if you go talk to Kala,
Let's see how you do against our machines.
what you'll need to see is that you need to see that all of the areas of the arena are defeated, completed, including the champion tier as well. Okay.
We'll see you later, champion.
All right. So at this point, I'm going to look at my checklist and make sure that I didn't miss anything while going through all of that. So doing all of that. I did miss one thing. It's optional, but if you look at the very top, you can see that I do have 1 billion shards. So if you're going to duplicate, it would be nice to have that. I have 1 billion shards. I have over 1,000 skill points. I'm level 200. So it goes without saying that obviously you should max out your virtual levels up to level 60. Everything after level 60 is a virtual level or ghost level, which doesn't count for anything but bragging rights, but you need to be at least level 60 because that does count towards your hit points. And you want to have maximum hit points, obviously. I think Aloy has 800 maximum hit points, which you can see here as well.
The arena is where soldiers are made.
Okay, I'm going to pause that. So we did the 1 billion shards. Oh, and then again, see, that's why I have a list because there's so much to this that even I forget. If you want to go to the merchants area, make sure that under the buyback part that is completely empty so that this is nice and pristine. Okay, so buyback should be empty. Let's take a look. I did that. I talked about that. I talked about all of the overworld mini events, the chests, Raw's Game of Strike, dialogue trees. Yes, everything's done here. Activate every icon on the map. All icons are green, no blue icons, defog. Yes, yes. All potions. Yeah, yeah. Okay, I think that's basically it. I'm going to end with the map. So again, as you explore the map, there are all these little Easter eggs and sometimes little tiny events in the overall map. You want to get all of them. For instance, there's like an Inari shrine in this area. There's a sword in the stone up near Plainsong. So I'll leave you to discover some of those. Those are easily Googleable. There's, for instance, a tribute to Patrick Munich, who tragically died of a heart attack while they were finishing up the original Forbidden West. And then Lance Reddick, who's the voice actor and motion cap actor for Silence, also sadly passed away. And they gave him a virtual Hollywood Star of Fame in this region right over here. So those are little tiny overworld Easter eggs and interactions that are kind of random and scripted. They don't really affect the game, but you should make every effort to get them. There's one nice one here where you're helping to knock the Desert Clan scouts kill first grazers, and then later on burrowers and ravagers, and you finally end with a big Thunderjaw battle here. So those are cute little events in the overworld map that you should also get. Like one of them here outside the Relic Ruins, and there's another one right outside another Relic Ruin here where you get smoke bombs by rescuing Ostrom, Delvers, for instance. And finally, it goes without saying, all of the icons should be green and activated. There's a bug, for instance, where even after finishing First Forge, it doesn't turn green, it remains blue. If that happens, you have to reload from start and do that all over again. So that's basically it. I looked at my list that I was checking through, and so I do think that I've gone through every single component of what goes into a perfect game. Oh, and of course, finally, to prove to you that this is on ultra hard, we go to settings, and you can see that there is no difficulty adjustment area. This here then proves that you are indeed in ultra hard difficulty level. Okay. So that's basically it. This is a huge video. I've been talking forever, but there's a lot that goes into this perfect game. And so for those of you who want to replicate it, you can actually use this video as a guideline. Every single component has been highlighted for you. And there'll be, you have to check other videos to actually, help with achieving some of the aspects of it. But this is it. Horizon Forbidden West, ultra hard difficulty, perfect file. Until next time, do take care.